Before I begin this story, I wish to make it very clear that when this incident happened, I was neither sick nor intoxicated. I know what I saw, and I believe it was all real. I work in real estate, hence, I travel a lot to meet clients all over the world. Generally, I am from Sydney, but I mostly stay in LA if I'm not traveling. So this one time, I went to Scotland to meet a high-priority client. I stayed at his place and cracked a big deal. I was on cloud 9 when I booked the return ticket. I generally prefer late-night flights to early morning ones. After searching for some time, I got what I was looking for. It was going to be a 12-hour ride, so I booked a flight of 1:30 a.m. I bid farewell to my client and spent the day in a motel. I couldn't get much sleep because I had a huge amount of paperwork I had to finish, but I thought I would sleep on the flight. After finishing my dinner at the motel, I left for the airport. I arrived quite early and grabbed a seat. It was a weekday and unusual hours to expect a busy airport. I plugged in my earphones and started watching videos on my phone just to kill the time. Apart from, there was an elderly couple and a woman supposedly waiting for the same flight. I was almost hooked up in my phone when I felt a sudden touch on my shoulder. I looked up and saw a woman dressed as a flight attendant standing next to me. She had a huge smile on her face. "Yes? Sir, your flight is about to take off. I think you missed the announcement." I looked around and I saw I was the only one sitting in the waiting area. All other passengers were gone. But my flight was at 1:30 a.m. "Yes, it's 1:15, sir. I was going through the passengers list and saw one missing. This is the only flight taking off tonight, so I just came back to have a quick check." I checked the time and, to my surprise, it was indeed 1:15. I didn't realize how time flew away. I got up and thanked her for her kind gesture. Honestly, I was feeling stupid at that moment. I stood up and started to follow her. The entire airport premise was pretty empty. We reached the boarding gate and saw another woman standing there. I was taking out my boarding pass, but she smiled and said, "Go ahead." I followed the attendant into the flight. While walking through the corridor, I noticed a huge scar on her left leg. It was as if some sharp metal-like object cut her leg open. But the scar did seem old. Another odd thing about her was the excessive pale color of her body. As I entered the plane, I saw a surprising sight. The entire plane was filled with passengers. I have been sitting in the waiting area for a long time and I don't remember seeing any of them. The ambiance inside the flight was absolute silence. I mean, it was so damn quiet that I thought for a second, no one's breathing. Every passenger kept their head down and it looked like they were all sleeping. I felt very weird after entering the flight. The attendant whispered in my ear, "Please, take your seat." I would have screamed if I was alone. The way she whispered, her cold breath froze my ear. I saw a third-row window seat. I guessed it was mine because that was the only vacant seat on the flight. Beside me sat a thin man dressed in formals. Maybe it was his business tour. The flight felt excessively cold and soon, a reeking stench started to occupy the air around. I buckled up my seatbelt and waited for the takeoff. But I didn't see any change of behavior in any other passengers. They all sat like before, quiet and expressionless. I said to the man beside me, "Isn't it cold in here?" He didn't answer, just sat keeping his head down. I thought maybe he's asleep or doesn't want to talk. So I plugged in my earphones again and looked out from the window. The pilot started the engine and the flight got on the runway. We just took off and I could see the ground moving behind me vertically when all the lights started to go off. The emergency alarm went on too and the plane started to shake violently. A huge bolt of lightning took place in the sky and a jerk took place making the luggage drop down from the upper cabinets. "Oh my God, what's happening?" I screamed in terror, but this time, no one else seemed to freak out. Everyone was sitting like a statue as if they didn't even care. What the hell is wrong with all of you? I started to unlock my seatbelt, but it got stuck. "Excuse me, please wake up. This flight is gonna crash. Please, we need to do something or else we'll all die." I was panting in fear and flocking like a wounded bird on my seat when the man beside me lifted his face and our eyes met. His partial face was burnt and his left eye was hanging on his cheek. He smiled, showing his horrifying grin and said, "We are already dead." The demonic laughter echoed through the entire flight. Every passenger lifted their face and started to laugh like demons from hell. Their spine-chilling voices numbed my ear. I screamed, "Please, let me leave!" Just that moment, my seatbelt came off and I sprinted towards the gate to jump. But the flight attendant came from nowhere and stood in my way. She was looking like nothing before. Her mouth was slit open and blood was all over her clothes. "We can't let you leave now, sir." "Someone please help me! Help me!" I pushed the door leading to the pilot's seat, and what I saw made my skin crawl. 2 headless pilots were controlling the flight, and the flight was burning from the front end, rushing towards the ground at full speed. "Oh my God!" Sir, are you all right?" A man dressed as airport security was sprinkling water on my face and calling me. I slowly opened my eyes. Where am I? Am I dead?" "No, sir. You were screaming and then passed out on the floor. But why did you come on this flight? Didn't you see it was out of order?" I got back to my senses and looked around. This was nothing like the flight I saw when I entered. I found myself sitting on the damaged floor of a burnt flight buggy. No doubt, this plane is under construction. But this was my flight. That woman, she called me saying, "No, sir. This unit is under construction since last week. On its way to takeoff, a bolt of lightning struck the flight. It caught fire and crashed on the ground. No one survived. The flight attendant and the pilot's remains were never found. 70% of the bodies turned to ashes." I missed my actual flight intentionally that night. I still know what I saw was perfectly real. The attendant's ghost lured me into the flight that night, and I witnessed a group of passengers submitting to a horrible death. I don't know if those haunted remains of that flight are still on that airport or not, but don't ever follow any mysterious person if they come to escort you saying, "The flight is about to take off, sir."
Hey guys, I see many of you commenting on my videos that this channel deserves 1 million subscribers. But I also see the percent of people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to the channel. So, if you like the content, want to support my channel, and want to see this channel reach 1 million subscribers, or maybe 500,000 subscribers, then go ahead, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It's free, and you can always change your mind later.
I am a 21-year-old petite woman. After spending a long time apart, last year, I finally got the chance to fly back to my boyfriend, Mark. This was my second time traveling through the air, so I was still nervous. I remember how early I reached the airport, panicking. What if I missed the flight? It was an early morning flight that took place on a foggy winter day. I even thought the flight would get canceled because of the weather. After the security checks and other formalities, I went to get a coffee. I just took the first sip when I noticed a boy around the age of 7 to 8 years old standing near the dustbin in the corner and staring at me. He was holding a candy wrapper which he was about to throw in the dustbin, but instead, I caught his eye and he paused. He was staring at me with wide, shocked eyes as if he couldn't believe that I was there. Few seconds went by, and when he still didn't move, I walked to him. "Hey, that's a cool t-shirt." He was wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt, and I thought to chat with him for a bit. Also, his stare was making me uneasy. I approached him just to break that. Hearing words of praise about his t-shirt, a big smile slowly appeared on his face. I mean, I know I shouldn't talk about a kid like this, but his smile was way more disturbing than his stare. What's your name?" "Are you playing with me?" "Huh?" "You know my name already." He said this with such confidence that, for a moment, I tried to recall if I knew this kid or not. "Sorry, kiddo, but I am meeting you for the first time." "Are you still angry with Daddy, Mommy?" "What?" I am not your mommy, sweetheart. You have me mistaken." "Is my son bothering you?" I turned back immediately after hearing a man's voice. A man in his late 40s was standing behind me with a serious face, but excessively bright eyes. After seeing his eyes, I had no doubt that he is indeed the father of this boy. Both of them had this disturbing stare. "No, your son must have me mistaken." "Yeah, My wife passed away recently. He is still trying to get over that trauma. Don't mind his words. Calvin, let's go. The boy held his father's hand and started to walk away. He was constantly turning back and staring at me. The father-son duo was so weird that I stood there for another 10 minutes thinking about what just happened. The way the man spoke about his wife's death and his son's grief felt so lifeless to me, as if he had no emotion. I came back to my seat and got back to my coffee. The airport was almost empty. From my seat, I could see the entire waiting area without any obstacle. The father-son duo was sitting at some distance from me, but I still point out that wicked grin on that boy's face. He just couldn't stop smiling at me. There was 2 more hours before the flight and I was already feeling anxious to leave. When I travel, I always carry a book with me. I took out a novel from my backpack and started ignoring this creepy child. I must have dozed off while reading when I felt someone's breath on me. I opened my eyes but didn't see anyone near me. The father-son duo was gone. I saw the time and realized I have an hour more before boarding. Needless to say, I felt relieved seeing them gone. I had to pee, so I got up and started to look for the washroom. It took me 5 minutes to find it. A long corridor led to the washroom. It was so quiet around me that I could almost hear my heartbeat. I got inside and closed the door to do my business. While I was doing so, I heard a burst of laughter and running footsteps inside the washroom. The hair on the back of my neck stood up immediately. I know this laughter. I just heard it some time back. It's that creepy kid. But suddenly, I heard another heavy footstep entering the washroom. I thought the kid might have sneaked in again, and now his father is here to take him back. I didn't come out of the washroom. I waited for them to leave. After a few minutes, when everything got silent, I stretched my hand to open the lock, but immediately pulled back, hearing a whisper. 2 voices were whispering in a very weird way. What's wrong with these 2? Why can't they just leave me alone? I saw a shadow from the space under the bathroom door. I crouched down and peeked to see who was outside. As I tilted my head to look out, I found another face looking back at me from the space under the door. It was the father of that creepy kid. Our eyes met, and a chilling shiver ran down my spine. He had a scary-looking, expressionless face. My voice choked inside my throat, and I just forgot to scream. I was about to get up when suddenly that creepy kid jumped on me from above and started to laugh hysterically. Boom, mommy! I screamed and tried to get him off me, but he was grasping my hair so tightly that the more I moved, the more he pulled my hair out. Boom, mommy! Get off me! Get off me! The man started to laugh as well. Then why don't you open the door, Margot? This is not the way to behave with your son and husband. He then started banging on the bathroom door. Open it! Open it now! I knew no one would be able to hear me from this washroom. I have to save myself. I need to get out of here. I grabbed the kid by his neck and pulled him off my back. He bit me on the neck and then kicked in the air, but I was adamant. As soon as I pinned him on the bathroom wall, he realized I am bigger and stronger than him. The smile on his face wiped out and a tense look appeared. He said in a fumbling voice, But mommy, I was just playing with you. I looked him in the eye and said, I'm not your fucking mommy. No matter what, I didn't want to hurt the child, so I just opened the door in one go and threw him on the man's lap and started running for my life. I was sprinting down the empty corridor while screaming for help. I turned back once and saw the man and his son. Both were chasing me like mad dogs. I luckily reached the waiting area before them and screamed at the top of my lungs. Help me! A few cabin crew associates came rushing, and the security guards were called too. They caught the father and son at that moment and called the cops. I didn't take the flight that night because I wanted to know what the hell is wrong with these 2. I went to the police station and gave my statement without missing a single detail. After a heavy interrogation, the cops finally found the truth. It was true that the man lost his wife, and since then, he is having mental issues, but the kid wasn't a kid. He is a full-grown man with a rare case of hypopituitarism. It's a rare hormonal disease that stunted his physical growth and caused proportional dwarfism. He spent most of his life posing like a little boy. Not just that, Taking advantage of his medical condition, he has manipulated his brother in doing several criminal activities such as petty theft and robberies. And today, they plan to sexually abuse me or maybe even abduct me because the cops found chloroform and several sleeping pills from their bags. I wonder how they managed to fool the security in the airport. Still at night, I wake up seeing bad dreams. I see myself tied to a chair and that man standing beside me. All of a sudden, that creepy dwarf man jumps on me screaming, "Boom, mommy!" I went to visit my grandma before the pandemic took place. She lives in Ohio. Even though the entire trip was quite fun, it took a scary end. After a tiring flight, when I finally landed at the airport, I was feeling exhausted. I was walking towards the baggage claim when a woman bumped into me accidentally. "What the? I am sorry." She quickly walked past me. I couldn't tell if she was nervous or in a hurry. Anyways, I let it go and saw her disappearing among the passengers ahead. I reached the baggage claim and stood in the queue. All of the luggage was being dropped off one by one on the moving track. I was waiting for mine when I noticed that same woman standing on the opposite side. She had a tense look on her face. I have never seen anyone awaiting for their luggage to arrive so anxiously. Don't know why, but I felt I knew her from somewhere. She was sweating out of nervousness. Maybe she needs to be somewhere else. That's why this sudden rush in her behavior. Slowly, the crowd near the baggage claim started to loosen up as people picked up their bags and went on their way. I had a black rucksack. After waiting 15 minutes, I finally saw my bag rolling towards me. I picked it up and noticed the woman had also received her bag. She had a blue trolley. She grabbed the trolley in such a manner that people would take it away. All this time, she didn't notice me observing her, but suddenly, she looked at me and we made eye contact. I got awkward and took my eyes away from her. But still, I could make out with my peripheral vision that she was walking away. Once I saw her going out of my sight, I looked back again. I could mark the blue trolley skating in the airport as she picked up speed. Also, it was the only blue trolley I could see at the time. The woman looked here and there while dragging the trolley. I could tell from her body language that she was carrying something highly secretive inside that trolley. But the obvious thought that came to mind is, if she has something illegal in that trolley, then how come she passed the security check without being noticed? I followed her. Yes, I did because my instinct was telling me something bad is going to happen. The woman slowly walked to the washroom and got inside. There was no way I could enter the women's washroom, so I waited outside. I got close to the washroom door and tried to listen to what she was doing in there. Don't get me wrong, I was just trying to overhear a secret conversation which she was making with someone over a phone call. Yes, I have it now. No, I'm not gonna leave it here. Are you crazy? I got sure that this woman is part of something really bad. I wanted to be surer before taking any drastic step. What? Do you have any idea how many people will die? No, you told me there are drugs inside it. You didn't tell me it has explosives. What the hell? I bolted inside the washroom and the woman looked at me with terrified eyes. Who are you? What are you doing in here? Ma'am, you better come with me. You don't want to do this. But before I could finish, she pushed me with the trolley and ran towards the waiting area. I chased her and screamed, "Security! Security!" She stopped right in the middle of the passage and screamed, "If you don't let me go, I will press this button," and lifted her hand that had a small pager-type remote inside it. The security circled around her, and a panicked situation took place inside the entire airport. I know I won't be able to run away if she presses that button. The entire airport will blow up. Why are you doing this? They have my son. I can't let him die. Backup was called along with the bomb squad. Everyone was waiting for her to loose the remote so they could capture this woman and defuse the bomb inside that blue trolley. People all over the airport started sobbing in fear. One mistake could lead to the death of thousands at that moment. The general stood in front of the armed forces and pleaded to the woman. "Ma'am, please, give us the remote. We promise we will get back your son." "No, they will kill him if I don't do this. I am sorry." As soon as her finger touched the green button on the remote, I heard a loud gunshot. Everyone gasped and screamed while the woman fell on the floor bleeding terribly. Paramedics took her to the hospital. The general shot her in the arm, otherwise, she would have killed God knows how many. The bomb squad opened the trolley and found a time bomb installed inside it. They defused it immediately, but everyone was shocked and furious at how the trolley passed the security check. I mean, it traveled the entirety with her, and no one knew there was an explosive inside it. The security team got fired and taken to the police station for interrogation. I came home somehow and felt relieved that no one had to die that day. Later, when this incident made headlines in the news, I came to know all about it. That woman and her husband got mixed up with a terrorist group that made them do many criminal activities. But the husband tried to escape from them and he got murdered. The poor woman pleaded for her and her 5-year-old son's freedom, to which they demanded her to plant an explosive inside the airport. The police have kept her in custody, and they are still searching for her son. I pray to God that the little kid is doing fine, and he gets back to his mother soon.